Hello, everyone. This is Owen Finnerty with Wolverines for Justice podcast, here with our third episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we were talking about Asian hate crimes. Asian hate crimes have increased by nearly 150% in 2020 from 2019, mostly in New York and LA, which have large Asian populations. These aren't the only big cities to experience increases. Boston, Seattle, San Jose, San Francisco, and many more big cities have experienced large increases in Asian hate crimes. Much of this is due to the pandemic. Large increases in COVID cases saw large increases in Asian hate crimes as well, leading to a negative association with the Asian population. Also, Trump's language has not helped the situation either. Calling the virus the China virus also led to much negative association. Today, we'll have a guest speaker on who is a student here at Ann Arbor, but she would like to remain anonymous. Today, she will share her personal experience of an Asian hate crime she experienced right here in Ann Arbor. We're very, very thankful that she wanted to come on to share her personal experience. Without further ado, here she is to share her personal experience.
Today I'll be talking about my experience at Tomukun Noodle Bar. And before we get into it, I would like to address a few things. I do want to say sorry for wildly accusing the owners of not being Asian. I didn't know who the owners were, so I shouldn't even have come out with an accusation like that from the start. So I do want to apologize. And secondly, in my tweet, I had no idea that I had just said the homeless instead of homeless man. So I didn't mean to dehumanize him or any way, and I definitely didn't mean any disrespect towards the homeless population. I just typed everything out within hours of the incident, and I was really shaken up, and that's why there were typos and errors in that Twitter thread. And yeah, I definitely didn't mean to dehumanize him at all, or the homeless population, so I'm truly sorry for that. So getting into it, I do want to say stay anonymous, so I hope you guys do appreciate that and are okay with that. And I won't be mentioning my friend's name as well. So April 4th, 2021, on I think it was Easter, yeah. My friend and I decided to go out for dinner because it was super nice and stuff. The weather was great. And we were seated outside, and I think it was a little bit past 7. So we were seated outside, and right when we were seated, there's kind of this homeless guy who's being a little loud, but we're whatever, that's Ann Arbor stuff happens. But they usually just kind of mind their own business, and afterwards we got our order taken, and 10 minutes later I think our appetizer came out. And when we got our appetizer, the homeless man came up to our table and was asking for food, which I didn't really mind because I was I'm sure he's really hungry, and I was going to offer some food, but before I could even do that, he was oh, you guys are such gorgeous girls or whatever, I hope you pretty girls have a really nice Easter. And that comment kind of made my friend and I super uncomfortable. And then before I could even say anything and interrupt him, he was yeah, I'm also really into Chinese girls. I think I really like Asian girls. And at that point I had to cut him off, and I was first of all, you're making us, my friend and I, super uncomfortable. You're not wearing a mask, and you keep on getting closer towards us. Second of all, you're calling us beautiful and this and that may seem like a compliment, but it's really not, and it's unnecessary. We didn't ask for it. And now you're just being racist and assuming that I'm Chinese and just fetishizing me, so I think it's best if you just walk away. And, he wasn't cooperating, and he was oh, baby, I'm so sorry, then, what are you? And, that kind of pissed me off even more. And, before he could even say anything more, though, there was this guy sitting at a table right next to us, and he was I'm kind of overhearing everything, since I'm right next to you guys, and I can tell that these women are really uncomfortable and they've already asked you to leave, so I think you should really go. And that's when the homeless man, kind of like things kind of escalated, and he started yelling like, "Oh, you don't know what the F you're talking about, like shut the F up." And then I interrupted him and I was like, he does know what he's talking about. I've already asked you to leave politely, and now my friend and I are extremely uncomfortable, so I just need you to get out of my face, I I only had so much patience and I could only be so nice, And he finally was like leaving. But then after, like him and his friends were like yelling like, F your COVID-19, like F China, F the country that started this. That definitely like hit it definitely pushed me because, the Asians have been receiving an extreme amount of hate. We've been going through a lot of racism, especially during the pandemic. And so I was like, like shut the F up. Like you don't know what the F you're talking about. Like you sound dumber by the second. Like you can really F off and go suck a. Yeah, I'm sure you can finish that sentence on your own. And so after that, I tried not to engage. I tried calming myself down, and I was like, shaking at this point, and I almost started crying, at my table. So I had to walk inside and like go to the restroom to calm down. And as I was inside, this one of the workers was kind of like looking at me. He had this kind of like, "Are you okay?" kind of look. That just kind of rubbed me the wrong way too, because I was like, this has been going on for like 10-15 minutes at this point. Or I don't know, it felt like it was going on for that long. And it's kind of like impossible to not hear everything, because there was a lot of yelling, and I just felt like everybody was watching as if it were like free entertainment, but it's not. Like I'm literally being harassed. And, so I went to the bathroom. I come back out from the bathroom, and as I walked outside, the group of men, started like, whispering things like, "Oh, she's out again," and like I heard them mumble something about like China a few times, and that that really pissed me off. So I was like, like I hear you guys mumbling stuff and like things about China, but I'm like literally like 10 feet away from you guys. Like you guys can say this shit with your chest puffed out and say it to my face. And they were still like kind of like yelling at my friend and I, and like they were also yelling at the guy that like stood up for my friend and I. And yeah, but after I said that, my friend had told me when I was in the bathroom, the manager came out and was like, "Oh yeah, this is really bad for our image." And then my friend also said that the people that were like kind of sitting next to us, the guy that stood up for me, he, was asking one of the workers or if they could like do anything about like him or like the man or like the situation. And the waiter responded with like, "No, sorry, there's not much we can do. This happens often, but it never like escalates this much, and it's never like this bad." I don't know. Like I just hearing those things like really pissed me off even more. Like this is bad for our image. Like, how like, that's a really selfish comment to make. Especially when it's a customer who's really hurting, and and the only thing you can care about is your image. Like, what's hurting your image even more? The fact that you guys aren't intervening and you're not trying to do anything about it. And and if you're a customer in distress, like I think the last thing anybody would want to hear is, "Sorry, there's not much we can do about it." Like there's something you guys can do. Like honestly, at the time, like even now I'm just like, there's still something they could have done rather than just kind of like watch me like being harassed, like watch me like getting harassed and stuff. But yeah, either way, like in the end, like at the end of our dinner, the manager went up. We saw the manager like go up to the homeless man and asking him to leave, but he wasn't. And then she came up to us and was like, she came up to my friend and I and was like, yeah, we called the cops and I'll just like stand here until they come. And like at that point I was just like, why are you guys even trying to help? Like at this point I was like, you guys are just trying to come off as like heroes or something to make it seem like you guys were, you know, taking care of me, of my friend, the entire time. And I don't know, I just would have appreciated more transparency from the staff, because like, you know, even if they had planned on calling the cops from the start, like it would have been nice to know that they were actually like trying to do something about the situation rather than like not letting me know what was going on either. You know, and it's definitely like really discouraging, you know, this entire incident was because you know, Tomokun's really, you know, like big influential restaurant in downtown Ann Arbor, and they are Asian owned, and they are, you know, Korean inspired. I mean, that's kind of like their barbecue side, but the noodle side is more like Asian inspired. And you know, how are we supposed to, you know, fight for the Asian community when we can't even expect our own people to be there for us? And they, you know, reached out on Facebook and they've said they've had prior experiences with this man, and he's tried to assault, you know, the owner and his wife, and he's like, and the same guy has like spat on the owner's wife as well. And I was like, you know, like that's just like even more of an excuse for you guys to like want to do something. Like how can you just sit there and watch your wife like get spit on by some other stranger? And yeah, like I definitely like feel sorry that they had to go through something like that, but like now is not a time to feel sorry and like throw a pity party for you guys. And a lot of people are like, you know, I see two victims of the situation, like Tomoko Noodle Bar itself and like me. You know, like, you know, they've had their chances to do something. You know, they've had multiple opportunities, and they, you know, they just can't throw this pity party. It's not about them anymore. And yeah, I mean, that was definitely really upsetting. And I was like, you know, like, don't you guys feel a little stupid though? Like, I mean, wouldn't you feel stupid after, you know, if you owned like a restaurant, you had something like this happen to a customer? Like, I'm like, you've had so many times to do something about it. So yeah, and I guess like something that, you know, I guess has helped me feel better was the response on Twitter. A lot of people have reached out to me, and it's definitely nice to know that there are allies, you know, for the Asian American community. And it's really nice to feel that support. And you know, I'm assuming that most of you guys that are listening to this are students that, you know, go to U of M. And I know that you guys have a lot of like Asian Americans that go to U of M, and I know that there are a lot of like foreign exchange students from Asian countries. I understand that it's the administration's job to, you know, create a welcoming environment and, you know, and like make policies and such so that we're not experiencing racism and whatnot. But, you know, you guys being students, I think, you know, it's your guys' responsibility to make everyone feel welcomed as well. You know, it's annoying that Ann Arbor has this, you know, reputation of being a perfect little liberal bubble when it's not. You know, nobody ever thought that like anybody would experience a hate crime, you know, in downtown, but I mean, I did. And you know, if you can't understand what it's like to be a minority in America, the one thing you can do is be an ally and show up for our community. Not only for the AAPI community, but other communities, you know, that are struggling, that are being overlooked, and the ones that are not being heard. That's the it's the one thing that you guys can do. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you guys, after hearing this, will educate yourselves, and I hope you guys show up for our community and for others as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast today. We really appreciate you coming on and listening. Please share with anyone that you know to get it out there, because we really feel like the more people we can reach, the more change we can make. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please like this video. Like I said, please share it as well. Be tuned in for our next podcast. Thank you.